Okay, so my phone says it's 5 o'clock. If staff's ready, I'll go ahead and kick us off.
Yes,
Staff's ready?
Yep.
Okay, great. Well, welcome everybody to tonight's meeting of the Board of Directors of Vallecitos Water District on Wednesday, May 5th, 2021 at 5 p.m. We're meeting via video conference, and I'll go ahead and read a notice to the public regarding that. Due to the evolving situation with the COVID-19 novel coronavirus, so long as state or local public officials have imposed or recommended social distancing measures, Vallecitos Water District will hold future meetings via teleconferencing and allow members of the public to observe and address the meeting telephonically or otherwise electronically. During this period of time, Vallecitos Water District will not be making any physical location available for members of the public to observe the meeting and offer public comment. The public is encouraged to watch and participate in the meeting from the safety of their homes. The meeting can be viewed on the agenda page located on the main page of the district's website. Public comments or questions can be submitted to the following email address, publiccomment@vwd.org. All written comments that are received at least 90 minutes before the meeting will be provided to the board, and a record of the receipt of the comment will be noted during the meeting. Members of the public viewing the meeting via Zoom video conferencing platform can express their desire to provide input at the appropriate time by utilizing the raised hand function. Additional instructions for online participation will be posted on the district's website, www.vwd.org/meetings. Okay, I'll go ahead and call us to order. Director Pinnock.
Here.
You know what? I'm going to pause that for a second. Director Boyd Hodgson, will you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight?
Yes, I will. I would be honored. Thank you.
If you can give us a second
Please.
to bring the flag up. Okay, hold on. Let me stop sharing here. Patrick, if you
Please.
can bring the flag up, please.
Yeah, I'm trying to, but I gave you host. Can you give me host back?
I don't know how to do that.
Just a little more and then next to my name. Either that or I have to go back out and come back in.
Okay. That should have done it. I'm sorry, board, for this.
No worries.
Okay.
There we go. Please rise if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with
liberty,
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Director Boyd Hodgson.
Sure.
Okay, now we'll go ahead and do a roll call. Director Pinnock.
Here.
Director Boyd Hodgson.
Here.
Director Ellithorpe.
Here.
Director Hernandez.
Here.
And I am here as well. So we have the full board with us this evening. I will entertain let me just make sure that I will entertain a motion to adopt tonight's agenda.
Move to approve, Hernandez.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second, Pinnock.
Okay, we have a motion by Director Hernandez and a second by Director Pinnock to adopt tonight's agenda. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Director Hernandez.
Yes.
Director Pinnock.
Yes.
Director Boyd Hodgson.
Yes.
Director Ellithorpe.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well, so the motion passes unanimously. We do have some, before I talk about public comment, we do have a new feature that we're trying out this evening. It's going to be a live transcript or closed caption for those that know it called that way. And we're beta testing a program here tonight. And to get to it for the public that might be interested, if you go to the bottom of your screen with your mouse, you'll see 4 categories. One will be participants. The other will be shared screen. There will be a raised hand function. So if you want to speak on an item tonight, you can certainly raise your hand with that button. And then to the right of the raised hand function, there's a live transcript. And if you click on that, it'll give you a couple of different options to be able to have tonight's meeting closed captioned. So please use that if that will be helpful to you. Now moving on to public comment. I know we had at least one public email that came in to the board and was shared with the entire board. Have we received anything else? General Manager Pruitt?
We have not, and just to clarify, the one that we did receive is for tomorrow's meeting for the budget workshop. So that's
Perfect.
Tonight's meeting.
Okay, great. And so no other comment?
No, nobody seems to be indicating a desire to provide comment at this time.
Okay, great. We'll move right along. But tonight we have a special presentation and a special guest, Director David Drake, who serves on the Rincon Water District Board of Directors. But tonight he's here with Aqua JPIA for a special presentation. So I'll turn it over to you, David.
President Snell, it's an absolute pleasure and an honor to kind of represent what the JPIA is for your organization. You have done a terrific job in mitigating risk and in mitigating issues that could affect the safety of your staff. And I think that's General Managers Pruitt and his staff supporting it. Just to share with you, we are giving refunds back to about 200 water agencies in the JPIA pool with a total of about $6.5 million. Your share is substantial. You guys have already received the check, I hope, hopefully, for $149,764.15. Hopefully will be somewhere in your coffers already. But really the more important part is to recognize how much you guys have contributed to the safety spectrum of all of our fellow water districts. Can you still hear me, by the way?
Yes.
I managed to goof a wire, but we're okay. 40 members of your staff attended JPIA courses. There were 3 training classes hosted by Vallecitos. There are 103 registered users of Target Solutions. 9 students are enrolled in the professional development program from Vallecitos. Every one of these steps accrues to your district in terms of ways to reduce risk and concern and workers' comp issues. I'm the chairman also of the Workers' Comp Committee. And every time I do this, I am thrilled that we have fewer and fewer people lining up for a workers' comp issue. And that's an achievement for your whole staff to understand. You know, if it was a commercial insurance company, all you'd get right now is a thank you letter and a bill for your next premium. JPIA doesn't work that way. We take the excess money that we gather over a 3-year period, average it out, and hand you a check. And that is exactly why people build insurance pools, because they get to share in the benefits and the return. I'll stop here and I'll answer any questions if you have any.
Do any of my colleagues have any questions for David at this time? Okay.
I know it's so darned exciting, you know, with 149 grand extra back in the bank. Woohoo!
Well, David, it is exciting because that means that our operations are operating safely and that our employees are going home in the same condition that they arrived at work in, and that's important to all of us, I know. And you talked about this 3-year rolling period. Correct me if I'm wrong, Glenn, but I think this might be the 3rd year in a row that we've had a refund. And so while it might only be $149,000 tonight, it certainly has been a consistent kind of reward for our efforts, if you will. And when I say ours, I don't mean the boards. I mean our employees, our management, and our entire staff. Mm-hmm. And in years past, and this, I'm kind of shifting gears, David, away from you and more back to General Manager Pruitt. But in years past, we've always tried to find a way to give some of that back to the employees one way or another. I know we've had kind of a celebration party for them to kind of recognize their efforts towards safety. I know we can't do that right now with COVID, but we've also given them, a little financial, for lack of a better way to put it, a bonus to kind of show our appreciation for their safe practices. And that's really the result of this, us getting this money back, is them following our rules, our policies, our procedures, wearing their PPE, and being safe in everything that they do. So I'll throw it out to the entire board, but Glenn, I don't know if you came tonight prepared, but can you maybe talk a little bit more about specifics as to what we've done in the past?
Yeah, so I think you're right. This is not, this is a multi-year run that we're on. So things are going really well. We're doing, compiling a really good safety record. The board did decide, I think this was brought to the board before, I think initially on March 3rd, and then the board made a decision at a subsequent meeting to we call it gain sharing, right? We use some of the proceeds, some of the $150,000 to pay for some of our COVID testing. You may recall we ran up $90,000 in COVID testing because of an outbreak we had, but the balance was split evenly amongst the employees, which was greatly appreciated. I believe it's probably just hitting them now. We were waiting till the check cleared, and David, it did clear. We did get it, and didn't bounce or anything. So thank you very much. I appreciate it. So we do have money left over from last year. The board took a similar action last year. We dedicated some of the funds to an employee appreciation event. It was going to happen last summer, but then COVID happened. So we still have, I think it's about $5,000 set aside to have a nice employee appreciation recognition event. And as soon as we can safely do so, that's on our calendar to do. So
Great.
I'll put that over to you, President Sanella.
Thank you.
We faced the same issue at Rincon. What do we do with the money? We had collected about 46,000. About half of that went to our bonus pool and the other half went to other expenses. I'm sure Clint Bays could explain it further, but we did the same thing. Sharing it with the employees is the key element.
Yep, absolutely. Okay, David, well, thank you for joining us and sharing that good news. If you don't have anything else, we'll let you go on with your evening.
No, just
sounds like you have some nice plans.
Hopefully so. Take care, everyone. Thank you.
Take care. Okay, moving right along. Can I get a motion to approve tonight's consent calendar, please?
So moved.
Okay, I got a motion by Director Ellertharp. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, and I got a second by Director Boyd Hodgson. Is there any discussion or any items that either the board or the public would like to discuss further before we take a vote?
I have a question, and
Yep.
I may have just missed this, but I don't remember Director Ellertharp being at the finance meeting on April 12th. But maybe I just didn't see him. Maybe he was just quiet. I didn't see his picture.
I didn't see his picture either, but my understanding he was there because there's. Is that correct, Director Ellertharp?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I was informed that you were going to attend. And I don't.
I'm sorry, I was quiet because I wasn't a committee member and I didn't want to hijack your meeting. So.
Yeah, well, then not only that, but it becomes, when you have three board members, one of them really can't participate. But yeah, he was there live in person. Okay. Any other questions or discussion? Cool. I'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Director Boyd Hodgson.
Yes.
Director Hernandez.
Yes.
Director Ellertharp.
Yes.
Director Pennick.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Motion passes unanimously. Let me catch up with my paperwork here, my notes. Okay, that ends the consent calendar and takes us into action items. We'll go ahead and kick off item 2.1, and that is the award of an as-needed task order for the Meadowlark Water Reclamation Facility project manager staff extension. So, Glenn, you want to go ahead and take that one?
Yeah, I'll kickstart it and then I'll push it over to Ryan. So we have quite a few projects on the books to either to be done at Meadowlark. So some of them are in various stages, and you'll hear more from Ryan. But we don't have the staff right now to manage all those tasks at the same time. So this is about getting an extension of staff. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan Morgan.
Okay, thank you, General Manager Prohm. Good evening, President Sanella and directors of the board. It's my pleasure to present the award of this as-needed task order for the Meadowlark project manager staff extension, as General Manager mentioned. Just a little bit of background on Meadowlark Water Reclamation Facility. It was originally built in 1958 as a state wastewater training facility. It has undergone two significant upgrades, one in 1982 and the other more recently in 2005. The 1982 upgrades increased the plant capacity to 2.25 million gallons per day. The improvements allowed the district to produce recycled water for the sale to the city of Carlsbad. And significant process improvements were made during that initial upgrade. Following that, in 2005, upgrades were added, including new sedimentation tanks, roughing filters, odor scrubbers, aeration basins, secondary clarifiers, and tertiary filters. The second upgrade actually allowed Meadowlark to increase its capacity to 5 million gallons per day of production of recycled water. The treatment process at Meadowlark includes 3 distinct stages, which are primary, secondary, and tertiary. The tertiary process is that which is responsible for treating the water to the secondary standard. The recycled water is produced for wholesale purchase to the city of Carlsbad and Olivenheim Municipal Water District currently today. This water is used for regional landscape irrigation purposes. And today it continues, Meadowlark continues to produce secondary effluent that can either go through the final tertiary treatment process, or it can be discharged through the ocean outfall if the Mar Reservoir cannot take it or other factors are at play. So currently the Capital Facilities Department is managing 6 budgeted CIP projects, which are actually shown in a table on page 67 of your board packet. These projects are also illustrated on the figure on page 66 of the board packet. The projects are in various stages of planning, design, and construction at the plant. For example, the conversion to sodium hypochlorite from chlorine gas project and the chlorine contact tank expansion project are in planning stage, while the tertiary structural improvements project is in design phase, scheduled to begin construction in the winter of this year.
Hey, Ryan, I'm going to put the figure up to give a reference point, okay?
Sure.
Sorry about that.
No problem. Meanwhile, the Headworks Improvements Project, the Biological Selector and Aeration Basin Improvements Project, and Odor Scrubber number 1 replacement are currently either in bid phase or they're in early construction phase with submittal reviews ongoing and materials in procurement right now. Additional unplanned design and construction support services from staff and operations at the plant are anticipated in the future, just based on our experience and the ever-present needs at Meadowlark. To assist with the active CIP projects at Meadowlark, district staff solicited interest in and availability for staff extension, project management services from consultants on the district's as-needed civil engineering list. Black & Veatch was selected from the solicitation due to their treatment plant and project management experience. Black & Veatch was awarded the as-needed civil engineering professional services agreement for current fiscal year and fiscal year 21-22 by the board on July 1st of 2020. Project management staff extension will assist with the preparation of requests for proposals, assist with planning, design, and preparation of bid documents, including plans and specs, and conduct construction management, including coordinating inspections and day-to-day services. Staff extension will work with existing project consultants and contractors, district staff, staff at Meadowlark in the daily correspondence and execution of project tasks. For the fiscal impact, funding for this staff extension, the staff extension services, which are not anticipated to be a full-time 40 hours a week job, it's going to be more on the average of about 20 hours a week, where we will have periods of higher need where they may approach 40 hours a week, but on the average, it'll be more in the 20 hours a week range. And that'll be funded through the current fiscal year directly through the individual budgeted CIPs. These projects have multi-year timelines and budgets. Each fiscal year, funds will be allocated within the budgeted CIP projects for these staff extension services. The first phase proposed for authorization extends essentially from today through June 30th of 2022. Each subsequent fiscal year, reauthorization will be evaluated for its need and it'll be brought back to the board individually for authorization of those future years. The total estimated project cost and budget summary are in the fiscal impact on page 65. The current fiscal year is slated at $149,567. And just for budgeting purposes of fiscal year 22 and 23, 24, those are laid out as well. But they are approximations and do not represent the actual total at that time, which it may be. And with this, the subject task order does exceed the general manager's delegated budget authority. So staff, with support of the Engineering and Equipment Committee, recommends that the Board of Directors authorize the general manager to execute a task order with Black & Veatch from the as-needed civil engineering consultants list in the amount of $149,567 for capital facilities staff project management services at Meadowlark. And if there are any questions, I will field those now.
Okay, thank you, Ryan. Do any of my colleagues have any questions at this time? Okay.
I do.
Director Boyd Hodgson.
I just want to make sure that I'm understanding. I can see, I'm looking at the board packet right now. I can see where it says fiscal impact. The present fiscal impact has already been budgeted for because it was in the current budget that we're in. Are you saying that next year and the year after, it will be an additional $149,567 over and above what you thought this would cost? I guess I'm just trying to understand, are we talking about an additional 149 or is this what you anticipated already going into the budget?
James?
I can add to Director Boyd Hodgins. It's not a full offset, but it's almost a full offset of staff costs. So in the existing CIPs, in the current budget that we've already submitted as a draft form, this does not impact that at all. What we're just showing is how we're allocating it to which jobs and how much that allocation is, but the total budget amount stays the same.
Thank you.
Do any of the other board members have any questions at this time? And if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve, Hernandez.
Okay, we have a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second, Pinnick.
Okay, we have a motion to approve item 2.1 by Director Hernandez and a second by Director Pinnick. Any other discussion? Seeing none, we'll go ahead and do a roll call vote. Director Pinnick.
Yes.
Director Elitharp.
Yes.
Director Hernandez.
Yes.
Director Boyd Hodgson.
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, moving on to, thank you, Ryan. And we're moving on to item 2.2, the water supply conditions update.
Yeah, I'll take that, President Sinella. So as you know, we're off to a really dry start to our year. Northern California has been issued some drought emergency condition declarations already. Nothing's extended down here yet, but we want to keep an eye on things. So I ask staff to come back every month with a report for the board to talk about water supply conditions, just to give an update. And obviously, as things become more dire, which I expect that they will as the year progresses, we'll come forward with recommendations as well. So with that, I'm going to ask Chris Robbins to give an update to the board. Chris?
Thank you, General Manager Prim. Good evening, President Sinella and board members. It's been a long time since I've been before the board talking about water supply and drought conditions. I think you're all pretty aware that the West has been experiencing drought conditions and California is in the middle of a second consecutive dry year. So on April 21st of 2021, Governor Gavin Newsom directed state agencies to take immediate action to bolster drought resilience. The governor also proclaimed a regional drought emergency for the Russian River watershed in Sonoma and Mendocino counties, where some of the reservoirs were at extremely record low levels. Currently, there's no drought declaration in San Diego County, but water conservation staff will provide the board of directors with a monthly update on water supply conditions starting this month, May 2021.
Hey, Chris, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but do you have slides that are going to go along with it?
Certainly.
I didn't know if they were in alignment with your presentation or not, but
that was more of a preamble that you just heard from me.
oh, I'm sorry.
It's all good. The State Water Resources Control Board in March sent out early warnings to like 40,000 water rights holders, urging them to start conserving. So not only do we have the second year of drought, but you know, the concern is also the wildfire seasons we can get after winter with really limited participation. The good side of Newsom's executive order is it allows California to prepare for the expected effects of water shortages statewide more quickly. The slide that I have up here on the screen now is the Northern Sierra 8-station precipitation index. That's one of the big measurements that the state uses to kind of track snowfall. The area is very rainy and very snowy, and it includes the watersheds for the Sacramento River, the Feather River, and the American River. And I hope you can see, I've kind of got my cursor on it here. We're at about 50% of normal and fairly close to these lower levels down here back in 1976 and 1977. This slide shows the water content of the snowpack in northern, central, and southern California Sierras. And again, these values are very low. The percent average for this date is 27% in Northern California, 34% in the central, and 14% in the south. So very limited in the snowpack water content. This next slide shows the California reservoir storage. Lake Oroville is at 42% capacity and San Luis is at 51. Those are the two main reservoirs that feed the State Water Project and bring water into Southern California through the California Aqueduct. So those are the two that get monitored extensively by Southern Californians. The Colorado River status, the upper basin precipitation, to date 74%, which doesn't sound too bad, but Lake Mead is 39% full at 10 million acre feet, and Lake Powell at 36% full at 8.6 million acre feet. So not specifically better in the Colorado River and its status. The 3-month temperature outlook from the National Weather Service and NOAA shows above normal temperatures trending for May, June, and July. And the amount of precipitation outlook for most places seem to be below normal. There's some above normal on the East Coast. And then the Southwest, it's just sort of standard. I did notice that over the, just today or yesterday, National Atmospheric Oceanic Association, NOAA, noted that the temperature had basically gone up. It was kind of a new news article noting the temperature rising throughout the United States. So that's another thing for us to be concerned with, just these above normal favored values. I will add in future presentations our GPCD figures. I think a lot of you will remember that we would have those. I didn't get a chance to get these in time for the board packet. I need Mike Arthur's help for those, and Mike was working on other projects, but he'll help me out and make sure we add those into the monthly updates going forward. And as far as a fiscal impact, if we do get a drought declared in San Diego County, I'll work with Wes to provide updates on how it would be impacting the district financially, and I'll take any questions.
Okay, fellow board members, any questions? Hey, Chris, I had a question. And First off, thank you for the presentation, and I appreciate both this update, but also the forthcoming ones, because I do think that we're headed kind of into a dry spell, a continued dry spell, and it's going to get tough out there. Towards the end of Governor Brown's tenure, and then of course into Newsom's, there was at least 2, maybe even 3 statewide water bonds that were pushed by the governors and passed, resulting, if you added them all up, probably somewhere near $10 billion with a B. And as you're doing any of your research, I mean, we have, it's been crickets since they passed, right? I mean, we're on the water board and we don't have any idea what they did with that money, that $10 billion. And I would like to think, as a water board member, but also just a Californian, are we going to be better off now with this new drought condition that's coming because we made those $10 billion investment? Did we do anything with it? Is it sitting in a bank? Did they use it for, some other purpose? I mean, what happened to it? And are we going to be able to benefit and have less of an impact with this upcoming drought because they use that money wisely?
Well, let me look into that bond information that you brought up. I can tell you that locally, Southern California, and even some of the articles I've been reading, is that the urban centers are really pretty well prepared for these things. They take effort, they take investments, and we've done that. The Water Authority's done that. Metropolitan's done that. Southern California looks good. But we're a whole state, and there's pain up and down the state, and we want everybody to help out and do their part. So
yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more, Chris. And these were statewide bonds, and so they were paid for by every Californian, and they should benefit every Californian. I haven't heard. It's been crickets since they've been passed, and I know it's only been, in some cases, 4 to 5 years, and others 6 or 7. And I know government moves slow, but if you find anything, let us know.
Will do.
Yeah,
Thank you.
One thing I would add to that, we don't have information at our disposal right now to share how those bond proceeds have been spent. But every time they add another bond on the ballot, the big complaint is, why should we approve more bonds when you haven't spent the money from the previous bonds? The single biggest thing, in my opinion, that could be done with the bond proceeds is to build more storage in the system. There's just not enough storage. So when you have a wet year, right now we have storage only because the reservoirs are low. But in good years, when the reservoirs are full, then you have to let all that water run right by. So there's always been a push in the industry to try to get those proceeds spent on storage projects. But those are just so environmentally difficult to approve, and they take such a long time that it does take decades sometimes to get these projects through. So yeah, it would be nice to have that money spent since it's already been bonded for. And I'll work with Chris to get some information for the board at a subsequent update.
Right. Director Boyd Hodgson, you have your hand up?
I do. I'm wondering if Chris can talk a little bit about, if we do come to a drought declaration in San Diego County, what his team is going to be doing as far as education and rollout, so that our ratepayers know what that means, how they can conserve, and if there's a plan that's being put into place for that. Thank you.
Certainly, there's specific messaging, and it'll probably come as a regional level. As a district, we like to play nice with our neighbors and make sure we don't have one set of messaging and somebody that's just on the other side of town has different messaging. And the Water Authority's got the lead on that, and I've seen some of their work so far, and we just got it just the other day, and I should probably share it at the next presentation. But a lot of what the Water Authority's toolbox is showing that, we invested, we've done this, and we got this, basically, is the sense from the Water Authority. We will be doing messaging to make sure that people don't waste anything. There's never a reason just to waste the water. People need to use the water, but we don't want people to waste it. And if we get to some extreme levels, there'll be some actions that'll be taken. Previously in 2015 and 2016, we did some drought patrols Ed Pedrazi helped me out very much with available staff being able to go out in the early morning hours and see where the water waste was and give us reports back daily on customers that had just rivers of water running off their sidewalk, and we just would follow up with them. That's the big target for us, is that residential runoff from grass and other types of landscapes.
Great, thank you. Any other questions or comments?
Maybe a couple of things, President Sinella. One is I agree with Chris's approach with that regional message. We may find it conflicts with the statewide message. You know, California is pretty well known for their one size fits all in a lot of things. So you may hear things from Central and Northern California where they're crying wolf, but San Diego County, we've made tremendous investments in local water supply development and water conservation deals with IID. So availability of supplies is not our problem in San Diego County right now. It doesn't mean it won't become a problem in subsequent years, but so I think one of our tricks may be to make sure that our local message isn't conflicting too much with the statewide message, or at least explain why it may be in conflict with it as we roll the messages out. And I did want to add that Ms. Martin does have her hand up.
Okay, but I'm ready for Ms. Martin if you are.
Ms. Martin, go ahead.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes, I wanted to applaud you for looking at this already, and we certainly need more reservoirs to be built. My concern is that we need to be a lot more proactive earlier, explaining why we're different from what the statewide instructions might be. But what I've discovered in my community was that because we didn't get to a severe enough drought level, a lot of lost water in my community, specifically, we have an ornamental waterfall that is quite a long drop. And Chris Robbins was very kind to come out a couple of years ago and personally walk up to the waterfall to see what was going on. And at the time, we were not able to instruct my HOA to stop using and running the waterfall because it is a total everyday waste of water, of course, and we are wasting money paying for the water and the electricity to pump it up constantly so it can fall down the waterfall. So I was wondering if we might be proactive sooner, and if there was anything that we could do to shut off the waterfall that I'm paying for right now.
Yeah, I can take that, General Manager Prim, if you'd like. It is a big waterfall, and it has quite large reflecting ponds that I'm not sure what the use of those reflecting ponds are for. It's recirculating, so it does meet the requirements of being a recirculating system, but there's obviously going to be some evaporation with the ponds, and then also from the water free springing, I think 30, 40 feet into the air, there's going to be a certain amount that gets lost due to drift and evaporation. It is not the most efficient waterfall, and I think it's at Madrid Manor, and I believe it's lost the luster that it had maybe 20, 30 years ago, and I don't know if I can force Madrid Manor to make changes to it, but I could certainly recommend it.
Yeah, I think from a public utility, talking about private neighborhoods, and I mean, where do you draw the line with fountains and other ornamental water features that a lot of communities have? I think that's something, unless the state dictates a mandatory 20% cut like they have in the past, or some other statewide edict that would really discourage that type of water use. I don't know if the local water district can really get into telling private property owners and neighborhoods at this point, at least, what they should be doing with their water features. But that's just my opinion.
We will also be bringing a new urban water management plan to the board at some point with our water shortage contingency plan. So that'll provide some updates for the board as well.
Yeah, and I would add right now, what they're doing is an allowable use per the ordinances. The
For
district,
the ordinance, it's allowable.
yeah, so the district could certainly change the ordinances and what's allowable. And that's something we would do when we get in more severe water supply shortage and restrictions. We would say, okay, in regular times, maybe a recirculating pond is okay, but when you go to drought level 1 or 2, it's no longer okay. And another thing that Ms. Martin may want to do is approach the HOA and have them, maybe reconsider their use of that reflecting pool.
Yeah, definitely. I noticed Ms. Martin's hand's up. I don't know if it was up from before or if she wants to comment again.
I believe it was up from before, and I've muted her. Usually I do that after a person has spoken, but I can unmute her real quickly just if you wanted to check in with her.
Sure.
Ms. Martin, did you have anything else you wanted to say?
Yes, I wanted to thank very much Chris for remembering Madrid Manor. I also want to thank you all for, if you could consider changing the restrictions earlier so that it would be feasible for me to have backup when I approach my board every year to eliminate this water feature that they touted 50 years ago, but is ugly. And it doesn't serve any purpose whatsoever. But I do appreciate that if you could consider changing the drought restrictions so that this kind of a waterfall would be restricted much sooner rather than waiting for a level 3 or a level 4. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Okay, and this was for information only. So thank you, Chris. Appreciate the presentation and look forward to your future updates. We'll move along, unless anybody else had anything. We'll move on. We'll move on to 2.3. And this is the San Marcos State of the City Address. Glenn, you want to introduce this item?
Yeah, this is a real quick item. So 2 weeks from today, the city of San Marcos will be, the Chamber of Commerce will be hosting the annual State of the City Address. It's at 11 o'clock, Wednesday, May 19th. I believe the title is Innovation and Resilience is kind of what Mayor Jones will be focusing on. It's the same day as a board meeting, is one of our board meetings. So you may recall in our ordinance, it says that in order to be eligible for per diem and expenses for this event, it has to have prior board approval. But since it's already on one of our board meeting dates, it's kind of a moot point because the directors will be getting their per diem for attending the Vallecitos board meeting if they do so. But the chamber is soliciting sponsorships. So they didn't directly approach Vallecitos. It was kind of a mass appeal. They have several different levels of sponsorship. Some are sold out, but I believe they still have gold and silver sponsorship opportunities. Gold costs $1,500, and it comes with some perks that come along with that. And the silver level costs $750. And both of them include some recognition in their digital event program. Obviously, the gold level has a larger presence on that digital event program, and the silver has a bit smaller one. So the item in front of the board tonight is to see if our board is interested in sponsoring the State of the City event. So that's all the direction I'm looking for tonight.
Okay, Glenn, can you refresh my memory? We never sponsored it before, right?
Well, so
I know we've attended, but have we ever sponsored it?
Yeah, so previously what I think we did, we bought tables. If this is the event I'm thinking, I think we did it for Boys and Girls Club, and I think there was a similar thing that you could buy a seat at a luncheon. But since this is not a in-person event, it's a virtual event, there is no table to buy. So I think that they're looking for other ways to raise funds.
I got you. Director Hernandez?
What were the levels? I heard them, but I didn't.
Yeah, I believe there's a gold level sponsorship for $1,500 and a silver level sponsorship for $750.
Well, I certainly would be amenable to doing a $750 membership, if you will, just to make sure our name is out there amongst the community and let them know that we are part of the community, as we've talked about it a number of times in the past. So that $750, I don't think is going to break our budget. So that's what I would recommend.
And I should have mentioned that all sponsorship proceeds will benefit the San Marcos Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
Is this a virtual event or is this an in-person event?
I'm sorry, it's a virtual event. I don't have the web address, but if anybody's interested, you can either go to the City of San Marcos or the San Marcos Chamber of Commerce web pages, and I'm sure they'll have a link to the meeting. And again, it's Wednesday, May 19th at 11 a.m.
So when you're saying a $750 donation for a table, it's just a donation, not for a table per se.
Yeah, maybe I wasn't clear. So previously, in years past, when it was an in-person event, we purchased a table or seats at a table. So and those monies went towards the Chamber of Commerce. So now that they don't have an in-person event and they're going virtual, they're looking for just straight out donations. And the money will buy you a place in their virtual program, basically. And it's either like a quarter page or an eighth page ad or, promotional piece in their digital ad.
Director Boyd-Hodgson, I see a hand.
Thank you. Do we have an advertising budget?
No, we don't have a specific advertising budget. I think Chris is still on, or maybe he's not still online. Usually a lot of that stuff, the outreach expenditures come from Chris's budget, and he has a generic budget to cover certain things, but we don't have a line item specifically for advertising or promotion. We do budget for things like events, conferences, things like that. We don't have line items for specific conferences, but we look ahead for the year and see what types of events and the number of attendees, and that helps guide the number that we include in the budget. So if the board were to consider a $750 or a $1,500 contribution, we have enough money in either Chris's budget or in the general manager's budget.
I'm just wondering why did it come before the board? I think this is an advertising opportunity. I'm just not, why are we being asked to approve it?
Well, because a couple of reasons. So in the past, there's been discussions about whether board members should be compensated with per diems and expenses for attending this event. The board's decision at the time was that if a board member wanted to receive compensation and a per diem for attending the event, they had to get prior board approval. So when I first saw this event come through, I said, hey, this is something that requires prior board approval. Then I realized it's not an issue of per diem, assuming the board members attend the regularly scheduled Vallecitos board meeting, and there will be really no expenses to attend the meeting. But I thought the same concept would apply. From what I took from what the board's action was before is that the board wanted to approve expenditures related to this particular event. So when I saw that they were looking for sponsorships, I felt that it fell in that same kind of category. So I wanted to give the board an opportunity to say whether they were supportive or not.
Are we members, as Vallecitos members, a member of the Chamber of Commerce?
I don't know if we're technically a member. We participate in their events. That's a good question. I don't know the answer. Diane, I think Diane's on board. If she knows, she can pipe up. But I don't remember signing anything that signed us up as members.
I believe, Glennon, that over the years, there's probably been some years that we have joined their membership and then others that we haven't. But I don't think we've been a member for at least a couple of years. Director Hernandez.
Well, I would move a motion to donate the $750 to the chamber to put our name out into the community.
Okay, and then I will give everybody a chance to chime in after. If there is a second, we can have some more discussion if the board likes. We kind of cut that off kind of quick there. But is there a second?
Yeah, I'll second that.
Okay, so we have a motion to donate, for lack of a better way to put it, $750 to the chamber to support their State of the City address event by Director Hernandez, and a second by Elitharp, and then I'll go ahead and reopen the discussion if there's anything further. And I guess I'll chime in now. I see this specific event being more of the State of the City and less of the Chamber of Commerce. I know that they're the organization that's putting it on, but this is, if you kind of compare it, this is our version of the State of the Union. And if I feel like the water board not being there would be like the Joint Chiefs not being at the State of the Union, or the Supreme Court justices not coming for some reason. So I think we should be there, right? I mean, the school board's going to be there, the entire city council is going to be there, if we want to be a leader in our community, we should do this. So regardless of the contribution or not, I do think it's a nice gesture to be able to help support such an important community event, because this is an opportunity for the public to hear from all of their elected officials, and also get an update from the mayor. And if we can help cover some of those costs as one of the city leaders in our community, then I think it kind of makes sense. And I'm leaning towards it, but I could probably be convinced out of it too if there was enough of us who weren't in favor of it. So I'll leave it at that. Any other discussion? Oh,
I feel like it is important for us to be there, and I would willingly pay out of my own pocket to go. But I feel like the same way I felt about when I first asked, why are we donating to the Boys and Girls Club? How was that charity chosen? How is this chosen? I am not convinced that this is the way we should be spending ratepayer money. I do think we should go, and I would gladly forego a per diem so that it can be donated, sort of kind of moving the money around. But I don't think that this is what we should be paying or spending ratepayers' money on.
okay. Any other discussion? Okay. Then we have a motion on the floor and a second. And I'll go ahead. If there's no other discussion, I'll go ahead and call a roll call vote. Director Hernandez.
Yes.
Director Althart.
Yes.
Director Boyd Hodgson.
No.
Director Pinnock.
No.
And I'm going to vote no as well. And so the motion fails 3-2. I don't know if we can tell me if I'm jumping, if I'm stepping too far, but I think Director Boyd Hodgson made a kind of an interesting suggestion at the very end of this, and I didn't want to dive into it and mess up the motion that was on the that was being considered. But could we get maybe a second motion about how does it work, Glenn? Could we give up? Could each board member give up one of their per diems to go towards supporting this, or I guess we all could just write a personal check to them too if we wanted to.
Yeah.
It would be better that way if any board member.
Probably cleaner.
Yeah.
Okay.
Accept your per diem from Vallecitos and then do whatever you want with the money.
Okay. Okay.
President Snella, I have to leave the meeting. Thank you very much.
Okay. Director Hernandez, thank you. Have a good evening. Okay. That ends our action items this evening. So we will move on to item 3.1. General Manager report.
Yeah, okay, just a few. So I wanted to talk a little bit about our solar production. So the board is aware that we entered into a power purchase agreement to develop solar generation facilities at 2 sites, our Twin Oaks Reservoir site and our lift station number 1. And work has progressed really well at our Twin Oaks Reservoir site. All the panels are installed and interconnected amongst themselves. And right now we're waiting for SDG&E to run a transmission line up there to connect the system to the grid. The work at our other site, the lift station number 1 site, and which is a significantly smaller site, also complete. And you may remember that I told you one time that we were told that neither site could be activated until both sites were ready for connection. And Twin Oaks isn't quite ready for connection yet because of the SDG&E work. The Twin Oaks Reservoir site is what's known as it's called an RES-BCT, Residential Bill Credit Transfer Tariff site. And what that means is that the energy produced at that site can be used to offset the energy consumption at other sites. So every year, Vallecitos can identify which meters it wants to benefit from the production at the Twin Oaks site. So lift station 1 site is a bit different. It's on a tariff known as a net energy metering, or NEM rate. And under this structure, the energy generated at that site can only offset the energy consumption at that site. So energy produced at that site can offset the energy used by the lift station right there. NEM sites tend to be provide better financial benefits to agencies such as ours than the RESBCT projects do. But the RESBCT, the other one, it actually provides more flexibility and allows an agency to take advantage of large expanses of land at one location to offset energy demand at the others. And this is a great example. At Twin Oaks, we have a lot of land up there, but we don't have a lot of energy demand there. So this tariff rate allows us to produce a lot of energy at one site and offset our bigger demands. And our single biggest site for demand is our Meadowlark site. So I've actually got some good news to report tonight. So we have been informed that the LS1 site is active and it is producing power. So what we were told previously that they couldn't, neither could be turned on until both were ready was incorrect. I believe we were told that because they thought they were both those RESBCT tariffs. But when we pushed on them to hurry up and get the Twin Oaks site up and running, it was discovered that the LS1 site is a NEM project. So it's been initialized. The effective date was March 24th. So that's good. The site's up and running. It's offsetting our electrical consumption and therefore lowering our costs. So that's a great thing. I've asked staff to develop a tracking program so that we can provide regular updates on the energy savings at both sites. So initially it'll just be energy savings at LS1. And then when the Twin Oaks Reservoir site comes on board, we'll do that one too. We believe the Twin Oaks site is going to be activated on July 15th of this year. So it's not that far off, just a couple of months away for that one as well. And just last item on this, we are considering conducting a COVID-safe ribbon cutting ceremony at the Twin Oaks site. So I'll be reaching out to the board members with details in terms of timing. What does a COVID-safe ribbon cutting look like? It's been a long time since we've done a ribbon cutting ceremony here, and I think this is a nice facility to do it at, but we want to make sure we can do it safely. So unless there's any questions on that, I'll move to the next item.
That sounds good, Glenn. Any questions? Oh, okay.
None. So the next one is just a real brief COVID update. So based on the conditions on COVID throughout the state and San Diego County, they've obviously significantly and continuously improved. We've been reintroducing our telecommuting workers back into the workplace. And today was actually the day where our last wave of folks reported to the office. So that's great. So those folks came back in today. We have about 95% of our workers back in the office. There's a handful of workers that haven't returned yet because they may have some extenuating health circumstances. So we've allowed them to remain and continue to work from home over that period of time. So that's it. I just want to give an update on that. And it's good to see people coming back into the office. We still have a lot of restrictions in place with masking and social distancing. We are still conducting the majority of our meetings remotely, even though the person may be in the office right next to you. But it's time to start reintroducing people to the workplace in a safe fashion. And I think now's the time. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Just how's the morale? How's the morale amongst all the employees coming back? Are they happy to see everybody again?
Yeah, I would say generally good. You know, the bad thing is I can't circulate around the building. We still have these, what we call exclusion zones. You have to stay close to your office in your area so that if there were to be an outbreak, we have less people that are affected. So I couldn't walk around and see a lot of people, but those I did see and those I communicated with, most of them seemed pretty happy. There is certainly a segment of our employees that think that the working remotely worked well. We're still engaged in those conversations, and we're trying to figure out what does the workplace look in a post-COVID environment. I think we learned a lot from the COVID experience, but it was the lessons were applied in a kind of I'll call it a laboratory environment, right? So we may have been able to work, a lot of our workers may have been able to work effectively from home, but partly that's because we had the building closed and we weren't allowing the public in. We weren't having board meetings. We didn't have consultants come in to meet about projects. So as we start to open up the facility, the expectation and the need is really to have more of the folks back, maybe not on a permanent basis, maybe there's some hybrid, but so that's what we'll be looking at as we move forward to see, is there some hybrid work environment that we can lay out for our workers.
Thank you.
Director Althorpe, I see your hand.
Yeah, Glenn, I was just wondering, do you have any sense yet or estimate of when we might get back to in-person board meetings?
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting for mid-June. So you probably all heard that the governor has targeted this June 15th date where a lot of the restrictions will be relaxed. I haven't seen a real clear blueprint of what he means by that. And then how does that, what the governor says may be different than what Cal OSHA says, which may be different than what San Diego County Board of Supervisors and the health department say. So I think it's going to be a couple of months still to make sure that we understand the rules that are going to be in place. And probably in a month or so, I may bring an item before the board to see what the board thinks reopening looks like from a board meeting perspective. Is it an all or nothing where it's either all board members or we stay remote, or do we want to entertain a hybrid approach where some board members are in the office and some are working from home? So I'll probably gauge the board's interest before we make any final decisions. And it'll probably be, maybe in the early June meeting, maybe the second meeting of June.
Okay. Any other questions? Thank you, Glenn. Mr. Gopin?
Thank you, President Sinella. During one of the previous meetings, I had reported on AB 339, which is one of the bills pending up in Sacramento dealing with how these virtual board meetings will be conducted in the future. That specific bill would have required translation services to be provided for essentially the 10 most spoken languages in California, and to provide non-English speaking commenters double the time for public comment. Last week, that bill was amended so that it would only apply to cities and counties that contain at least 250,000 people. So at this point, even if it were enacted, it would not apply to Vallecitos. The second thing I wanted to touch on is I know that you all are having more committee meetings. And just to remind everyone, under the Brown Act, a committee is a meeting of less than a quorum of the board. There is an observer exception so that non-members of the committee can attend the meeting, but you're limited to being, quote unquote, an observer. Meaning you can't speak at the meeting, you can't participate, etc. So that's just a reminder on the limitations on the Brown Act under the committee meetings. The two final pieces, we executed the settlement agreement, full and final with the Water Authority this week. So that deal is signed, sealed, and delivered, and we will be dismissing the pending action arising out of that dispute. And then in addition, you all may have heard that Mark Haddam, who is general counsel at the Water Authority, is retiring. So that's the final piece of news. Happy to answer any other questions the board may have.
Any questions from the board? Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Gopin. Moving on to the San Diego County Water Authority report, Director Althorpe.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. The board and its committees met on April 22nd. Fairly routine, not a lot of action items. Jim just mentioned the Vallecitos desal litigation. That was considered in closed session at the Water Planning Committee, and then ultimately the full board approved it on the consent calendar when the board met in the afternoon. The board authorized the general manager to seek opportunities to leverage the Water Authority's water stored in Kern County as groundwater, and that's up to 16,117 acre feet, so that may be used to assist during the state's drought. That's a groundwater storage bank that's in a semi-tropic water district up in Central California. The board adopted positions of either support or opposition on various bills in state assembly and state senate bills. And to get specifics on each one, you can go to the website for the Water Authority. And finally, the board adopted a resolution approving amendments to an extension of the consolidated memorandum of understanding with Teamsters Local 911, representing the 3 bargaining units for the period July 1st, 2021 through June 30th, 2023. And that's my report.
Great. Thank you, Director Eltharp. And I'll go ahead and cover Encina for Director Hernandez and I, since he had to leave. It also was a bit of an uneventful meeting that a full board meeting, not a committee meeting. But we did award a construction contract for the affluent equalization facility settlement project that was to the tune of $2 million. And that facility was constructed in 2005, and it requires some maintenance. And so that passed unanimously by the board. And then there was another project that we approved that was roughly $750,000 to $800,000. And that was for basically primary improvements to the overall system with the existing grit and screening facilities and the process equipment located in the primary treatment areas. And so a lot of this, it's funny when you serve on these boards, because a lot of these technical construction engineering projects, they're kind of, if you're not an engineer, a lot of it goes over your head, and you're talking about big dollars, and so you're trying to follow along because it's important, but it's we'll debate for half an hour over a $25 or something, and then these will always pass unanimously. But yeah, that was, and then the other thing that we talked about was we adopted the fiscal year 2022 pension policy operating and capital budget, and that passed unanimously as well. So that was, and then I will say today, so that was the board meeting that happened last week on the April 28th. Today there was an Encina workshop that took place, and this was about a 3-ish hour event that was really good, and we got presentations on basically an update on our biosolids program, what Encina is doing with renewable energy, and their solar, and not only what have they been doing currently, but what they're looking at for the future. Water reuse is top of mind for Encina going forward. I think all of us have been to conferences where we've learned that eventually no wastewater will be put out to the ocean, and so they're trying to get ahead of that really aggressively. And then we talked about the pension liability, and much like what we do here, where we've proactively tackled our pension liability, they have one as well. And all of the board members actually praised the staff for their efforts in tackling that liability and saving ratepayers 7% on that. I call it a debt. They call it a liability, but on that debt, that's what CalPERS charges the various different agencies, us included, is 7%, and that's pretty high interest rate by today's standard. I mean, you can borrow money for less than half that, and so it's really important that you don't carry that high interest debt. And Encina's tackled it. We've also tackled it, and they have a plan, I think, in the next 2 to 2.5 years to actually be. Their goal is to be 100% funded and not have any liability at all. But there's so many moving parts, and a lot of it's based on how much the CalPERS investments make interest wise. And they could, CalPERS goal is 7% for their interest investments. And that's why if they don't hit the 7%, they come back to the different agencies and they ask for the difference. 7% is a high interest rate on a debt, but it's also a high goal for to achieve in the markets, if you will. And so they've only achieved 7% or more than 7% once in the last 4 years, and we've been in a one of our best ever economic situations, at least as far as the stock market's concerned, over that 4 years. So If they couldn't make 7% during the last 4 years, I'm not 100% confident that they're going to make 7% over the next 4 years, but I wish them luck. And so that was a great workshop. If you get a chance to view it, because it's all recorded, I highly recommend it. There's so many really cool, innovative, forward-looking things that Encina's working on, and all of the comments from the full board today were overwhelmingly positive. And we're all laser focused on being a world-class environmental agency, and you can see that staff really buys into that mission, and they're doing a lot of good things. I could talk about these categories for literally hours because it took them 3 hours to do it. But I would just recommend that you guys, go and watch that because it was very informative. And with that, we'll move on. Let me find my agenda here. Standing committees. Did any of the standing committees meet since the last time we met? The finance committee did, but anybody? Oh, Director Boyd Hodgson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. The P3 committee met on Monday, and we had a very full agenda. General Manager Pruitt has already gone over a couple of things, including the return to work, which is very encouraging and very hopeful. One thing that I want to point out, you notice the closed captions down at the bottom. This is something that we've been working on in the committee to try to enable more and more full participation in our meetings in this platform, recognizing that there are folks that are hearing impaired, and it's really difficult for them to participate live if they want to join as the meeting is going on, but also if they want to watch it, then it's very difficult for them to participate. So this is something that we've been working on in committee, and this is the beta test of one offering or one option that's out there. We've weighed several different options. This one, as well as Zoom, also has a recent update, and PowerPoint. Actually, you can turn on closed captioning if you're presenting in PowerPoint, but we're running into similar concerns in that it doesn't capture it quite as faithfully as if there's someone that is familiar with the subject matter. Engaging in the typesetting, but this is something that we're going to try, and we're going to see how this goes tonight, and then we will. I think staff is going to evaluate it and then work up some costs. There are different levels that the district could buy into, and what we're trying to do is we're trying to strike a balance between enabling full participation, but also what are the nice to haves and what are the things that we don't really need. So we'll be looking at that in the future, and I look forward to that. I think that'll be, that's really the right thing to do, irrespective of whether AB 339 passes. This is the right thing to do to enable folks to, to participate in the meetings. That was sort of the big thing to come out of that meeting. There's a lot of ongoing work in the committee. One of the things that we are doing is, or that I'm not doing it, but the staff is doing it. I know that it's taking a lot of their time, and they are working really hard, is to consolidate all of the ordinances and resolutions and making those sort of in a central repository so that they're easily accessible, so that we can look at them, so we can understand what's still in place, what is obsolete. And I know that General Manager Pruitt and Ann and Diane have been working on that very hard, and they're making great progress. They have now identified all of the resolutions, I believe, that are active versus the ones that are inactive and obsolete. So they've been working on that. They are working on not really a succession plan, but just understanding what, where all of the employees sort of stand as far as tracking toward retirement. And if we have folks kind of in the pipeline, no pun intended, that might fill those roles. And so planning for that, that eventuality. One other thing that we are also going to be looking at is potentially forming a task force to help educate kids about water, but also pull that through at the elementary school level and also partner with folks in SNUSD, partner with an educating company that came and gave us a really nice presentation a couple of meetings ago. But also, talking to folks at Palomar, and I've already reached out to them, figuring out, how we can ride the momentum of kids that are interested in water so that we can put them into jobs in the trades or send them to Cal State University, San Marcos, and they can become engineers or something like that, or, tracking kids through their matriculation so that they will be interested in water. And then they can have good local jobs. They can come to work at Vallecitos. They can work where they grew up. And we're going to need to fill those jobs anyway. We've got a lot of folks that are on the cusp of retirement, not just at Vallecitos, but all over the county. So those are really those are the things that I wanted to talk about. And if anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them.
Great. Thank you, Director Boyd-Hodgson. Any questions? Okay. Any other committees meet? The Finance Committee did meet, and we had two different items where we had consultants come and talk to us and give us a briefing on. One was debt issuance that you've probably heard us talk a little bit about over the last 4, 5, 6 weeks, and the full board will be getting an update on this soon. I'm still my takeaway after listening to the consultant. The gist of the overall theme is, you can borrow money really inexpensively right now. So we should do it. And I'm not necessarily, saying that I disagree with that. It probably makes a lot of sense in some ways to do it. I just need still, for me personally, a little bit more kind of time to kind of chew on it, but also some more information around it before I can make a final decision. And I'm glad that we're going to have an opportunity as a full board to hear that again and be able to ask questions and get answers to those questions. The other item that we had a consultant for was our upcoming cost of service study. And again, this is actually an item that's kind of near and dear to me, because the cost of service it's just that it really outlines the way we bill our customers, and there's more than one way to do that within. There's many different ways, actually, if you look at all the different water districts that are around, and there's ways that that you can set it up to where you could in some cases encourage more conservation. You could there's just a lot of different ways that it could be done, but we got a really good update on that, and again, more information is going to come around the cost of service study here at future meetings. So I'll leave it at that so we don't keep the meeting going on too long. And there was no other committees that met. So any directors' reports on conferences that you attended or seminars? No, I didn't attend anything either. So Director Boyd-Hodgson. I
have just a couple, and I'll make it brief. I know as we always get to the end of the meeting, it does sort of drag on. But so I attended the Water 101 by the Water Education Foundation, and it was fascinating. I imagine it's much more impactful to attend that in person. But as someone that is new to the board, it covered everything from a history of water to riparian rights, and some of it was a little dry, I have to admit, but it was generally very fascinating. I'm glad that I was able to attend that and bring that knowledge going forward as I'm a board member. I also attended a sort of it was called the Public Support for Water Infrastructure Policy Briefing. So it talked at the federal level what the Biden administration, the American Jobs Plan, is going to do for water. And I found that really interesting. There's a lot of water money coming to the states, presumably, and that we will hopefully see. So that means jobs, and it's going to be really interesting to see exactly how that shakes out. And I also, as an individual, not as a board member, but as an individual, I sponsored meeting that I participated in a citywide cleanup, or I Love a Clean San Diego cleanup last couple Saturdays ago. And in the end, there were 500 different cleanups all over San Diego County. There were almost 2,000 volunteers. We picked up almost 24 or over 24,000 pounds of garbage. That is garbage that's not going to end up on our waterways. And there are opportunities like that all the time. And I would really, once it becomes a little bit safer, I think that would be something really, really good for us board members if we want to do that, to increase our visibility and get out into the community and show that we do care about our communities in that way. And so I'm happy to keep people apprised of when those pop up again. And I hope that my fellow board members will join me.
Yeah, that's really neat, Director Boyd Hodgson. And when you were talking about it, kind of what popped in my mind is something maybe we may want to look to in a board is maybe the Adopt the Highway program. If we adopted a part of 78 or something, and they put the little sign up. We were talking about kind of marketing and stuff earlier. I did participate. I was president of a club when I was at Cal State San Marcos, and our club adopted a section of Highway 78 when I was there. And it was, it's a good way to, you'd be surprised what's on the side of the freeway too. But it's just a good way to keep our community cleaned up. So I like it. And that's really cool. Thanks for sharing. Okay, so we'll move on to other business. There's no meetings for 4.1. Any director's comments, future agenda items?
Just that General Manager Prum has his hand up.
Oh, no, he hasn't. We're done with him. Go ahead.
I just real quick, I neglected to mention as a reminder, there's a workshop tomorrow, budget, PERS, and debt issuance. So just for the public's benefit, if they want to tune in tomorrow, 3 o'clock, should be a good discussion.
Great, thank you. Any other director's comments or future agenda items? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and adjourn. To those that are out there who attend. Oh, I do see a hand up. Is that a new hand, Glenn?
Yes, Miss Martin has her hand up.
Okay, Miss Martin.
Yes, I wanted to thank everyone for a very good meeting. I was glad that I could hear everybody. I know when Wes speaks, I always have trouble hearing him, but I think maybe they're working on his mic or something. A very good meeting. I did test the live transcript, and I see that because we all speak so very quickly, the system doesn't have time to capture but maybe 50% of the words that it transcribes on my screen. So maybe speaking a little bit slower might help. But I do see that this is a tremendous effort in getting the hearing impaired the capability of participating in these meetings. And I really appreciate that there are a lot of the financial documents that are now being put on the website, the public website, at the same time as the agenda. I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Martin. And to everybody else who joined us from the public, thank you for coming tonight, and everybody have a wonderful evening.